Out front next, breaking news in the search for Nancy Guthrie. New details tonight on the ransom note that officials are now investigating. TMZ's Harvey Levin, who received that note, is our guest, as the sheriff says Savannah Guthrie's mother is, quote, still out there and alive. Plus, chilling new information about the night Guthrie was abducted. The sheriff revealing to CNN the doorbell camera is now missing. And that's not all he is saying in this new interview. And Bill Gates' relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Our K-File on the case, uncovering more about their friendship than previously known. Let's go out front. And good evening, I'm Erin Burnett. And out front tonight, we begin with the breaking news. Quote, Nancy is still out there. That is the direct quote from the sheriff investigating the disappearance of Savannah Guthrie's mother. He says he believes that Guthrie is still alive, even as investigators from every single agency you can think of are battling this up against a possible deadline. According to the FBI, the ransom notes for Nancy Guthrie included two deadlines. One of them is right now. It's 5 p.m. today, which would be 7 p.m. Eastern time.
So the ransom note that was distributed to the media did make a demand for 5 p.m. today. And if a transfer wasn't made, then I think a second demand was for next Monday. We're not going to go beyond that.
And when he says they're not going to go beyond that, they did not specify exactly what the ransom note writer said would happen if the demands were not met. But we are learning more about what is in these notes. According to the FBI, the ransom notes did not include proof of life, and they had no way to contact the sender. They did mention, though, a floodlight in Guthrie's yard and her Apple Watch. And we also know that the payment they demanded was in Bitcoin. And in an emotional video, Savannah Guthrie and her siblings are begging their mother's captor to come forward.
We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her. We want to hear from you, and we are ready to listen. Please reach out to us.
Savannah's words coming as we are getting chilling new details tonight about her mother's disappearance. The sheriff revealing that the blood found on the front steps of Guthrie's home does belong to the 84-year-old. And there are now even more resources joining the extraordinary force on the ground already. The Tucson Sector Border Patrol Search, Trauma and Rescue Team has now joined the search for Guthrie as well. We have a lot to get to tonight, including TMZ's Harvey Levin, who, as I mentioned, received one of those ransom letters. We're going to be talking to him in just a moment. I want to begin on the ground in Tucson, though, with our Ed Lavandera. Ed, I know you just spoke to the sheriff. So in your conversation, and as you've seen him day in and day out, really hour after hour, what stands out to you right now most as we are now just a few minutes past this deadline?
Well, two things. The sheriff insists that he is still operating under the assumption that Nancy Guthrie is not just out there, but out there alive. However, we are now 5 days into this investigation. I asked him how little evidence there is or how little few tips there are coming in. He said they've gotten more than 100 tips over the course of this week. But despite that, there's still nothing concrete enough that would lead them to where Nancy Guthrie is.
The Pima County Sheriff revealed key details in the investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, including evidence that showed blood found on her front porch matches the 84-year-old mother and grandmother. Investigators also laid out a timeline of her disappearance, according to her family and data from digital devices, including multiple cameras in the Guthrie's home and a front door camera that is missing. On Saturday at 5:32 p.m., Nancy traveled to visit her family in an Uber. At 9:48 p.m., Nancy is dropped off at home by a family member, and then at 9:50 p.m., Nancy's garage door closes. On Sunday at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects. At 2:12 a.m., the sheriff says software detects a person on camera. Then at 2:28 a.m., her pacemaker disconnects from the app on her phone. After receiving a call that morning at 11:56 a.m., the family checks on her home and finds that Nancy is missing. At 12:03, the family called 911. The sheriff says the female Uber driver has been cleared in the case.
The Uber car itself has a video of her, so we knew that it was in fact Nancy, and what she had on and what she was wearing, all those things.
We are 5 days into this. Yeah. Are we any closer to finding Nancy Guthrie?
I would say we are. People are always asking, do I believe she's alive? Absolutely. That, I hope, keeps us motivated because we do know the dangers of each passing day.
The FBI announced a $50,000 reward, but investigators say there are no suspects yet. FBI agents were on scene at Guthrie's home late Wednesday conducting an additional search of the crime scene, using detection dogs and taking bags of evidence. At the same time, Savannah Guthrie, along with her sister and brother, posted a heartbreaking video painting a loving picture of their mother.
She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see.
She chooses joy day after day, despite having already passed through great trials of pain and grief.
Officials say there is no evidence that reported ransom notes are legitimate, though they are still investigating, including one sent to media outlets that set today as a deadline for payment.
It was 5 o'clock today, and then it had a second deadline after that. So we are continuing in a normal kidnapping case. There would be contact by now.
The sheriff, meanwhile, says they're following the evidence to bring Nancy home again.
Every day we're working. Something, we're like everybody else. We're waiting for that one big break.
So investigators here say they are continuing. They think that eventually there will be one tip that comes in that leads them to where they need to get. In the meantime, they say they have conducted a number of interviews, and the sheriff insists that the family members of Nancy Guthrie have all been cooperative throughout this entire process. Aaron.
Ed Lavandera, thank you very much on the ground in Tucson for us again tonight. And I want to go as promised now to Harvey Levin, the founder of TMZ, which, as I mentioned, received a ransom note for Nancy Guthrie. And Harvey, look, I'm really grateful to be talking to you. And you know, you heard officials there say that there was that 5 p.m. deadline, which of course would be about 7 minutes ago. So we're past that. You know, I mean, without revealing anything that could jeopardize the situation, since you have seen the ransom note here, what are you able to say about the deadlines that he referred to in the letter?
So I need to be careful just because, you know, if the FBI is saying they don't want to reveal more, I shouldn't. I will say this, that there was this deadline at 5 o'clock today, and I'm trying to pick my words carefully here. There is a change in what the, if this really is a kidnapper, what that kidnapper may want. The Monday deadline is far more consequential.
All right, and I'll let people read into that what they will, but I think that says it all. Look, Harvey, you get tips on everything. Okay, you're TMZ, so you have tips coming in all the time. So when this one came in, and as you look at it now, was there anything about how it came in or anything about it, this letter, this ransom letter, that was unusual to you?
It felt like somebody means business. I mean, when you read it, it's very detailed. This person thought through. FBI mentioned at the news conference today something that we had seen, where they mentioned the Apple Watch and the floodlight. And that was what really put my antenna up, and we immediately called the sheriff because that's what we could say to him, which is, you know, here are these two items they're mentioning. Does this make you interested in it? I will say this, that they do mention an Apple Watch, as the FBI said, and they do mention the floodlight, the damaged floodlight. There is something else, and it is the placement of the Apple Watch, which has not come out. And if that placement is accurate, I'm sure that is something that puts this letter on the FBI's radar.
Oh, okay. So you're saying not just that there was an Apple Watch, which I am aware, was in that letter before any reporting, when you got the letter, before any reporting on the Apple Watch came out, right? So it wasn't as if they saw the reporting and put it in there. But you're saying it talked about a specific location. So if that turns out to be accurate, obviously, that says a lot. Right. Harvey, as you and I are sitting here,
and that's, look, we called the sheriff immediately and gave them the letter. And then a couple hours later, we got a call from the FBI, and they had a lot of questions about this. And I think that placement of the Apple Watch, if this is true, is something where they would immediately take this seriously.
All right, Harvey, I don't know if you got a alert or anything on this, but I haven't seen it and you haven't seen it. I don't believe. Just was posted on Instagram by Savannah, another video with her and her brother, I understand. So let's just both watch it here for the first time. Just her. Let me play it.
This is Cameron Guthrie. I'm speaking for the Guthrie family. Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you. We haven't heard anything directly. We need you to reach out, and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward. But first, we have to know that you have our mom. We want to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact.
So that was her brother, Harvey, Savannah's brother. She just posted that, Cameron, her brother. All right, so Harvey, what he just said there.
I can give you some context.
Yeah,
to
go
that.
ahead.
So they are pleading for this person to come forward if it indeed is the person behind this letter. The letter says, you will have no way of contacting me. This is the only contact. So that's why they're pleading for proof of life. That's why they are begging, because they have no idea how to get in touch with this person. They went to great lengths in sending this email to us, in making sure that it stays anonymous. I don't know that the FBI is at all close to figuring out where it came from. My guess is they haven't, based on what our IT team has done here. So I don't think they know who sent it. And the person who sent it says, this is going to be the only contact, and you have no way of getting in touch with me. So they made that clear. That's why I believe that they are begging for this, because they have absolutely no avenue to make contact.
All right. So, but that's really crucial what you just said, Harvey. You're saying in the letter it says this will be the only contact. And it sounds like from what Cameron's saying, which echoes what they said last night, which is they haven't had contact. We have heard from no one, is what he says, as Savannah had said. And we want a proof of life. I mean, they're asking for the very basic proof that you have our mother and that she's alive. But it sounds like from what he's saying, Harvey, is that if this letter is legitimate, and I know we're going to keep saying that, it's important to say it, but if so, it means that the sender's doing exactly what they said they were going to do. They sent the letter and that's it.
They began the letter. I don't think I'm giving anything away here. They began the letter by saying that that Nancy is okay but scared. So they say she is okay, and also that she's aware of the letter and the demands.
That Nancy Guthrie herself is aware of it.
Yes.
So Harvey, then what else are you hearing at this point? I mean, given that letter was sent to you. I mean, have you heard anything else? But what else are you learning?
So there's something in the letter, and Aaron, I just want to make this really clear that this is just my opinion, just based on analyzing it, that my sense, and Charles in my office, we've talked about this at length today. My sense is whoever sent this letter is based in the Tucson area. And I say that because of a reference made in the letter, a sentence in the letter. It feels to me, reading it, that this is Tucson based. And I think that's a fair analysis based on, my discussions today in the office and just reading this letter. So this doesn't feel like this is somebody out of state or out of the country who hatched this plan. It feels more localized. And I'll underscore that by saying that the other outlet that received this letter is a local outlet in Tucson. And think about that. Why would they do that? Why would they know that station if they weren't Tucson based? I think this is something that was hatched by somebody in that area based on the read of this letter.
All right, Harvey, since you're here, I mean, stay with me because you mentioned that local station. And I happen to have Mary Coleman, who's with KOLD 13 with us now. So let me just bring her in here. Mary, I know you could hear Harvey talking about this, and I'll play again in just a moment. Cameron Guthrie, Savannah's brother, what he just said. But, you know, I wanted to give you a chance to respond to what Harvey just said. He's saying that, you know, because you've seen this letter as well, that he felt from something in it that made him think that the person who wrote it is in the Tucson area, knows the Tucson area. Obviously, you live there. This is your home. Do you also share that view?
I understand what he's saying after reading the letter over and over again about referencing the fact that it may be someone local. It certainly can, but you know, aside from a couple of words in the letter, I don't know. You know, I don't want to speculate that it's not someone from outside either. So really, you know, there are a lot of questions remaining, but I can definitely see how Harvey would think that it might be someone here locally in the Tucson area who might be responsible for this.
Mary, you know, Harvey was talking about the deadlines and the second one being obviously incredibly consequential. We've just passed the first deadline a few moments ago. Has your newsroom, just in the past few moments, to your knowledge, received any additional message or follow-up communication at all, Mary, since in these past minutes?
Yeah, I've been refreshing my email constantly, Aaron, to try and see if we've received anything. I have, you know, my email open right here, and we haven't received anything just yet. But, you know, all eyes are on our inboxes, as I'm sure the newsroom that Harvey runs also they're doing that, and nothing so far.
Harvey, when the FBI reached out to you, and you said they did within a couple of hours of your telling the sheriff about the ransom note after you received it, can you share anything, you know, about what they were most interested in, or sort of the questions they were asking, or anything that might have been telling to you?
Yeah, I gave them my word I wouldn't discuss the substance of the conversation, but as you can imagine, I mean, the obvious thing they want to figure out is who wrote it, where'd it come from? And I don't want to get more specific than that because I told them I wouldn't.
Right. All right. Well, that's important, and I respect that as well. Mary, you know, from where you sit right now, what is the very latest you're hearing? I know that the sheriff is saying that they still believe that Nancy Guthrie is alive, and that would appear to not have been one of the consequences of the deadline here that we have just passed a few moments ago. But what is the very latest that you're learning just about the search itself and whether they have made any progress? Because I know so many people, when they hear this, they say, with the extraordinary amount of national resources that have been put against this, it's hard for people to imagine that there truly can be no suspects. Yeah,
nothing new at this hour aside from the video that you played there. But as far as the search goes, nothing new. There's still a lot of law enforcement presence out at all scenes, and they're working to try and get what they can. As you know, you all mentioned earlier, we learned a couple of new details from the press conference this morning, including that the blood that was found on the doorstep, they did confirm to be that of Nancy Guthrie, and I think that that's also very concerning to a lot of people. You know, the sheriff is saying he believes that she's okay. And as Harvey said, the captors say she's okay. But when you also confirm that her blood was found at the doorstep, there are numerous things that are very concerning about the entire situation.
Yeah, and at this point, according to Cameron Guthrie, they have heard nothing else other than that letter. That's what he says. Mary, Harvey, I'm very grateful to both of you, and thank you so much for sharing everything that you can, of course, within the constraints of you know, what the FBI had told you. So thank you both so much. John Miller is with me, along with Wally Zions, who's former commanding officer of the NYPD hostage negotiating team. David Kennedy is also here, former NSA hacker and cybersecurity expert. All right, let me just play again what we just heard from, and you heard Mary and Harvey, but what we just heard from Savannah's brother, Cameron, which he just posted. Here it is.
This is Cameron Guthrie. I'm speaking for the Guthrie family. Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you. We haven't heard anything directly. We need you to reach out, and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward. But first, we have to know that you have our mom. We want to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact.
So, Wally, what does that mean in the context of what Harvey Levin just said, which is that the letter itself said, we have your mother, she's okay but scared. and this will be the only contact. It sounds like from what he's saying that has been the only contact.
You need two to tango. You just can't just sit there and twiddle your thumbs and wait for someone to call you. You have to have a conversation, a dialogue. You have to develop that, and he's not getting it. It's just going through an internet letter that's going to them. And if you're going to do any type of negotiating, you have to have the other person on the other side of the coin. You need to start the negotiations by having some sort of listening, trusting, developing that conversation that's so important. They're getting nothing. They even had I believe there was a drop site was put in for a drop for money. No, but there's no place. There's no conversation. The most important thing is they want to know that their mother is alive. They want some sort of indication that the mother is okay, or they want to physically see her, and they're getting nothing in that respect.
I mean, it is pretty incredible when you think about it, John. People say, given you hear the Tsarnaev brothers, these stories, right? When you put the weight of American law enforcement, they find people.
The Tsarnaev brothers, the Brown University shooter,
right.
You know, all of these cases where they start out with nothing, but the combination of technology and shoe leather and crowdsourcing to the public, you know, if you look at any of these recent cases, those are the three things that brought it together. The challenge here is, you know, with elderly kidnapping, statistically, we know that usually it's someone with a connection to the victim, a former employee, somebody who knew the house, somebody who had information, and usually the motive is money. So here you have somebody who's not going direct to the victims, but going through the media as a communicator, who's probably using, and our NSA colleague will flesh this out, using encrypted emails, whether it's Tor or Proton, something that can't be traced, and asking for money to go through crypto channels, which, if you're trying to follow that money, is most often a dead end.
I mean, and as Harvey Levin said, the address, David Kennedy, that was given for the Bitcoin is a real address. But you know, what he said is it seems from where we are now that the FBI doesn't yet know where this email address came from. I mean, is it really possible in this day and age, David, when we hear about how absolutely everything you do is hackable, that they might really not be able to figure this out?
There's a lot of solutions online that are very focused on privacy and ensuring the anonymity of an individual. And Bitcoin's, you know, are very, very similar to that. Very hard to track, you know, where it's actually going to. The FBI has teams that can allocate and look at the wallets and where the data is actually going to. But yes, you can use heavily encrypted, anonymized sources. You know, as the you know, was mentioned earlier, using something like the onion router or Tor, which is also referred to as a dark web, allows you to facilitate communications in an encrypted stance. It's very difficult for law enforcement to actually get through and actually understand. And that's really what law enforcement has to go through. They have to go through a group amount of data, a lot amount of information from cameras, you know, residential areas, traffic cameras, cell phone records, you know, any technology that can be used in this situation, and piece it all together. And they are leveraging artificial intelligence to speed this up, and things they can do to actually, you know, find this faster. But it does take a lot of time to go through.
Something that they want to do to keep the thing moving. But, you know, within a negotiation, one of the first things you learn is you can talk through the deadlines as long as you have a reason. You know, we're trying to get done, and the reason can be very real. You know, for the amount of money you're asking for, we have to sell things, liquidate things, move things. It can't be done in an hour. So the deadlines are, I don't want to say they're not concerning, but they can be managed. But that requires, as Wally pointed out, you need to be in a two-way conversation. And right now they're in a one-way conversation.
And why do you think that is, Wally? I mean, and also, I mean, you know, obviously they go to Harvey Levin, right? They go to Mary Coleman, to KULD, whoever the they, I'm using they, it could be a singular person, we don't know. Send the letter. But what does it say to you that there's no conversation?
They're using the power of the media. You know, a friend of mine once said, who was in the media business, he said, a 55-gallon drum of ink, meaning the media, is a lot more powerful than a 9mm gun. They want to get their word out. They want to show it's like the theater of terror. They're acting to get, there's something they want. There's something they want to have. And they're waiting for the right time to start that communication. But, you know, the FBI and whatever hostage negotiating group that they're using is prepared. They already are here. The FBI has their tracking teams. They have their negotiator here. They have their profilers here.
Yeah.
It's just a question now of putting together a conversation. And you can't do it on a one person. You have to have two.
Well, every time you have a conversation, it raises a risk of course, someone figuring out where you're conversing from. David Kennedy, let me just play again. I want to ask you something specific about this. What Savannah Guthrie just posted on Instagram, this video of her brother Cameron talking to the person who took their mother captive. Here he is.
This is Cameron Guthrie. I'm speaking for the Guthrie family. Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you. We haven't heard anything directly. We need you to reach out, and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward. But first, we have to know that you have our mom. We want to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact.
David, what do you make of the fact that there has been no contact up to this point, other than that ransom note, right? Other than that, we understand no contact.
If you look at the timeline of what actually occurred, I mean, basically 30 minutes or so for them to disable the camera, get access, get them out of there, get Nancy out of there, and then from there, the lack of communication to the implantable devices. This is a well-orchestrated type of situation. And then right after that, leveraging encrypted ways of transferring money. So they already had to have an account already set up for this specific type of instance to happen. It shows a methodical approach that they knew this house was a target. They were going after this house. They knew that the cameras were there. Whether or not they knew they had a subscription or not, but it was immediately disabled, upon entering the house. These are all indications that this is a well-executed type of situation that was really well planned out. As John had mentioned, a lot of times these types of situations are somebody that knew him or was a former employee, things of that. And the lack of communication may be a risk type of situation for the captor to not make communication in order to be traced in some way. It really only takes one mistake or something that the attacker does they didn't think about. Maybe they didn't use their VPN to get access to their infrastructure to communicate. That trips them up and allows the FBI to go in and find them.
That's right. And I guess the hope is that with the time that was given here by the kidnapper, that will be the time that where a mistake can happen. Thank you all three very much for being with us again tonight. And our breaking news coverage continues. I'm going to speak to Savannah Guthrie's longtime friend and former co-worker. They worked together in Tucson, where Nancy Guthrie would often stop by. She lived a mile away from the station. You'll hear what he wants you to know about Savannah and her mother. Plus, our K-File just went through a number of emails that Jeffrey Epstein apparently drafted to himself about Bill Gates. Emails that make graphic allegations about the Microsoft co-founder. The details are coming up.